Welcome one and all to our next edition of the Downtown Talks. My name is Matt Jack. I'm with the Bellevue Downtown Association. This is a series where we speak with local leaders and subject matter experts on issues that are important to Bellevue. This series is supported by a generous group of sponsors. Those sponsors are Heritage Bank, Kaiser Permanente, Puget Sound Energy, and Vulcan Real Estate. Thank you for your support. Today, we are speaking with Police Chief Steve Mylett on law enforcement issues that have occurred over the last year. Chief, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you. We're socially distanced, so if you're good with it, I'm going to take my mask off as well.
Please
okay.
do.
Thank you.
Chief, one issue, and I'm going to go right into it off the bat. I've been listening to the public hearings on the city budget. It's top of mind for a lot of folks, so it's defund the police.
Yeah.
And I'm going to sort of present a an idea or a thought, then ask you to respond to it. It's my understanding about this campaign slogan. So defunding the police is a complicated issue. You know, it's across the United States, it's happening in different countries. And as I understand, the meaning behind this campaign message is to advocate for police reform and to shift funds from certain police programs that would be considered outside of your purview and move those towards other departments, issues such as addiction, mental health, or homelessness. But the slogan has become more literal, in a sense, to defund the entire department. And if it's literally applied, then police departments don't have the funds to hire new personnel, right, fund programs, or train their officers to support the reform. In a sense, this is a paradox, and I can't imagine what you are going through or other departments across the country. Can you share your take on this dilemma and how your department has managed to navigate this paradox?
We are in difficult times. When this whole idea of defunding the police came about, and what accompanied it was that very thing that you said, take money from law enforcement, where law enforcement has been asked to do many, many, many different things. We've inherited assignments over the years where there wasn't enough to fund another unit in the city, so it was, let's get the police to do it, because we are one of the very few city departments, other than the fire department, that is a 24 operation, and we have people out in the field, 365 days a year. And so we've inherited things over time. And so when the topic came up, let's take money from police budgets and put it where we can create systems and units to send into a situation that doesn't require a police officer. From the noble standpoint of it, okay, I can see it. But then I really started thinking about it. Mm-hmm. And so one of the main areas that people kept on citing was people in crisis and dealing with the mentally ill. I've been wearing a uniform for 32 years, and the vast majority of my time was spent in the patrol division. Matt, I can tell you I've interacted with many, many people who suffer from mental illness and crisis. And when called into those situations, the one thing that is consistent is how unpredictable those situations are. And I've been in situations where I'm interacting with somebody and things seem relatively calm, and then for whatever reason, the person just, it goes south. The contact deteriorates rapidly, and now I'm having to use my police skills and my defensive tactics to help the person not harm themselves or harm anybody else around them, to include me. So defunding the police to create units that can go out and do the work that the advocates believe can be done by mental health professionals. When it's a person in crisis, it's very unpredictable, and I don't know that you can take the police out of the equation. So where I land with this is keep funding for the police department and do something else. We are exploring a project here in Bellevue. It's called the Community Crisis Assistance Team, which would partner a police officer with a mental health professional. We have a system in place right now, but we're looking to expand it. But I don't think that you can take the police out of these situations because they're so unpredictable. And then there's another, when defund the police, when that mantra came out, you had the people that I think really had a noble idea, but then you had others that were using that mantra to punish the police and to take away the safety and security of a community. So the motivations of the different groups have really become convoluted.
Have there been any other reforms or programs that you've implemented over the past years? Sort of like that mature look back, where we can improve and then move forward? We're
constantly evaluating the services we provide to the community. We look for partnerships. There's no way a police department can do things by themselves. We're dealing with a homelessness issue in Bellevue, as most communities are. And we were looking at another innovative way of doing this work where it's not only the police department that's doing it. We're very fortunate in the city of Bellevue that under the leadership of our city manager, Brad Miyake, he has put together a team, a true team, where all the city departments support one another because it's a one city vision. We are going forward as one city. We're not working against each other. As you've seen in your career where, in different municipalities, you actually have city departments that are, butting heads constantly. And fortunately for us here in Bellevue, that doesn't exist. So when we started looking at innovative ways to deal with the homelessness crisis and issue, we looked to Redmond. And Redmond started a program where they took it out of the police department and they hired a homelessness outreach coordinator. I sat in on a presentation from the city of Redmond, and I almost offered that guy a job on the spot because he was phenomenal. But, I say that tongue in cheek. I wasn't going to steal the employee, but I stole the idea. And I don't just say me; it was the city of Bellevue. So we hired and created a homeless outreach coordinator position, and we were very fortunate that Stephanie Martinez, who I think came up from California, took the position, and she's done a phenomenal job. She has gotten people out of living in their cars, living in tents, and gotten them into affordable housing. But there are situations that she finds herself in, or as she's getting prepared to go make contact, where she realizes there's a safety risk, and she'll call upon us to go with her. And of course, we escort her, and she does her thing, and we stand by, and very rarely do we end up having to intervene in our role as law enforcement. So we have been innovative in the city, and we're constantly looking at our policies, at our programs. We are one of less than 6% of police agencies around the country that have international accreditation. And one of the benefits of being accredited is I get to interact with all of those departments, and I take their ideas, and they take ours as well. So I think we continue to be innovative.
I'm curious about talent, attention and retention, like a talent attraction and retention. So that's a big motivator for a lot of businesses in our community, and I imagine it's a big deal for the police department. How has that experience been? Perhaps with bringing in new officers, but generally the national narrative with your team.
So right now for the Bellevue Police Department, we're doing pretty good, actually, with attracting new candidates. Most of them are lateral officers. These are officers who are police officers in other municipalities, and they're leaving their agencies for a variety of different reasons. And Bellevue is a destination of choice for them, for what we represent, and the fact that we have the support of the community and the elected officials. That's huge. It really is huge. Specifically, the support of the community. I will tell you, across the board, nationally, it is a challenge because one of the intended consequences or unintended consequences of demonizing the profession is that people turn away from considering a career as a police officer. And Matt, I'm going to say this, and I'm very adamant about it. I don't think there's more of a noble position or profession than that of a police officer. I don't. What we do and what we represent is, I'm very, very proud of it. Now, when somebody does something in our profession that tarnishes that, we're all offended by it. But anyways, for new hires, so these are people that haven't been police officers before, yes, it's becoming more difficult to hire. I'm part of several national organizations, and I talk to chiefs from around the country, and they're struggling with getting people interested into this profession, especially in communities of color,
Right.
where the trust is just, there's an absence of trust. And so we have to work harder to either gain that trust, regain that trust, and you do that by showing up and having that personal relationship with the community. And for us in Bellevue, I think we do that pretty well. There's 18,000 different police departments in this country, 18,000, close to 1 million police officers in this country. I think what's most important is that the police department engage with the community as equal partners, and that's the whole premise of community policing. Trying to build that relationship from a distance, you're not going to build it. You need to show up, and we have at community events. Our community knows its police department. We're not perfect, Matt, and we've heard it.
Yeah.
Since I've been here for the last 5.5 years, and there have been some really great ideas that came from the community. That was like, you know what, you're right. We don't do that, or you're right. We do this, and we need to do it differently. And it's the benefit of engaging, because we work for them. They don't work for us. We are their servants. And we take that obligation very seriously. And so when we're talking about bringing new people on, police officers in our region, I think we got great police departments in the Pacific Northwest. I really do. I think the police departments in our region are just outstanding departments, and they're great partners with us, and they care about their communities. But I am proud of Bellevue, and I am proud of what this city represents. And I think lateral officers, when they're looking at the different departments they can join, I think for some we stand out, above some others, and I'm proud of that. One of the things that I do want to say, Matt, is that we have been very blessed in Bellevue. While you're hearing the chants of defund, and you're seeing some cities do it, and there are some cities in our region that are in close proximity to us that have done that. Mm-hmm. We have not done that in Bellevue. Our elected officials, under the leadership of our mayor and city council members, they did not consider defunding the police. Now we're looking to expand and be innovative, but not at the expense of the police budget. Again, our city manager his leadership in this area has been phenomenal. We're listening to the community. I sit on community panels quite often, and I hear that, Chief, we want to defund this, we want to defund that. And then I ask them, okay, less than 2% of our budget is left for discretionary spending, less than 2%. So where are we going to take the money from? If something happens at your house at 2 o'clock in the morning, somebody's breaking into your house to harm somebody, you dial 911, Bellevue, we're there in about 3 minutes. You start cutting positions, because that's what I would have to do. You start cutting positions, that 3 minutes may turn into 6 minutes, may turn into 12 minutes. In some communities, you're talking much, much longer than that. And a lot of damage can happen in that time period.
Yeah.
I asked a student group, okay, if I cut positions, do you want me to cut the person who oversees the sex offender program? To where we are keeping tabs on those that have been convicted of serious sex offenses. If nobody's there to ensure that they're registering and abiding by the court's rules, do you want them unsupervised in the community? And history has shown when people are unsupervised in this particular area, it's easier for them to reoffend. So while the idea is, for some, maybe noble, to help and to help people in crisis and other things, in reality, it's even more damaging. And where you have seen the defunding, where you have seen police positions cut, it's the people who feel it most, and you'll hear it on the national talk shows, are the people who need the police the most. And defunding, I'm not on board with it, but creating other things, so fund the police and do something different. Absolutely, I support that.
You're in this position right now. The city trusts you, the community trusts you, and you have to meet those expectations. Meanwhile, the narrative is painting
Absolutely.
the police officers poorly. So how do you continue to earn that trust?
The most important thing for us to achieve as a police department is to earn the community trust, to ask them to impart on us legitimacy. It's earned and it's given. We can't demand it. And I came on in policing in January of 1989. And so I came in at the tail end of one type of era of policing. Community policing, the whole concept of community policing as we know it today was absent. Mm-hmm. Some municipalities have done that, and it goes back to Sir Robert Peel's principles. The police of the community of the police, and it's got to be a partnership. But I came on in a time period where there was an attitude that the community should feel appreciated by the fact that we're willing to do the job that we're doing. Well, that's wrong. We are appreciative of when the community says, I trust you. And I know you're going to make mistakes. Why, Matt? Because we're human beings. We're human beings. When people see this uniform, some see government, and yeah, we're the most visible arm of local government. Some see robots, some see callous individuals, but behind the uniform is a human being that feels everything that you feel. And so when our community does this, and they look at us and they say, we trust you, and we've earned that trust. It takes years and years and years to earn it. All it takes is one incident to lose it. But even when we have made mistakes, the only thing I can ask from this community, for this police department, is I trust that you're going to get to the bottom of this, and I trust that you're going to handle this appropriately. And just as soon as you don't handle it appropriately, we are definitely not going to trust you. I do think that we have the community trust in Bellevue, and it's not the chief, it's not the command staff. It's the line employees. Mm-hmm. It's the officers out in the patrol cars. It's our detectives. It's our civilian staff that interact with the public, because that's where the services are being delivered. And I can't tell you how many compliments I've gotten from the community, to include, you know what, I got a ticket. I don't like getting tickets, but I got to tell you, that was the nicest and most professional officer I've ever gotten a ticket from. I mean, okay, so we're hiring the right people, we're training them, our value system is instilled in them, and they're living it. And that's where the trust is earned.
As a representative of the Bellevue Downtown Association, I wanted to ask about growth coming up. Bellevue is a unique city in the fact that it is going through the recession right now, but it's preparing for growth, lots of growth. We've got a development pipeline that's full of construction and permitting. We've got employers moving in. How are you and how is your department preparing to serve this growth and adjust to the new conditions of a more dense urban environment with a lot more folks?
When you're actually able to step away from all the challenges that you mentioned earlier, and you think of the future, right? I'll tell you, I'll be the first one to admit it. It has been difficult to think about the future and seeing anything past these things.
Yeah.
And all of the other things that we've been dealing with. But when you do think about it, and there is a light at the end of the tunnel now, right? Because you got vaccinations that are coming. There's a solution. Hopefully we're able to defeat COVID and open businesses fully again, and actually go to a restaurant and and do all the things that we were doing before the arrival of COVID. But when you think about the future of Bellevue, it's exciting. I think it's exciting.
It's really
all the
exciting.
Growth.
Yeah.
And and people are coming to Bellevue for a reason. And I think one of the biggest reasons is that our mantra is Bellevue welcomes the world. Diversity is our strength. And I do think that this city, and as you know, I've been employed elsewhere, I think this city lives it. I really do. Are we perfect? Absolutely not. Is there room for growth? Definitely. But I do think that business is coming here because it is a safe community. And there will be public safety challenges. Definitely, no doubt. My experience is when you have all this growth, the predators come along with it, looking to prey on the innocent. Right now, we are adequately staffed. About a year ago, the city manager authorized us to do a staffing study. So we hired a national leader in this area, a consultant.
Okay.
And right now, we are adequately staffed. We had some positions that in detectives and elsewhere we were low in, and the council gave us the authority to hire those positions. But we will not know the impact on public safety until we actually get where we're going.
Right.
Light rail's coming in the next couple of years. How is that going to impact us? We went to some communities that have experienced this already, and there's really two different experiences. One was a more negative experience. Another one, there was no change to their public safety demands or the demands on public safety. So we're watching it, we're involved in the discussions, and fortunately for us, again, we've got a supportive community, we've got a supportive city council, and it's a one-team approach from the city of Bellevue. So I think we're positioned well.
I want to wrap up this interview right now with a takeaway. What's that nugget of wisdom that you'd like to share with our audience today? What's that one bit?
Matt, and if I can, and I've done videos with this on this topic before. May 31st is a day that's going to live in people's minds for a very, very, very long time, especially people in the downtown area. This city was victimized on a level that it had never witnessed before. And in some ways, I think the city lost its innocence. And it happened on my watch. When I look back on it, we were outnumbered. And I won't go into all the reasons why we couldn't make arrests in that moment. I had 75 officers out there at one point where there was over 1,000 people that we were trying to deal with. And so we went back to the priority of things: no loss of life, no serious injuries to anybody, to include police officers, and no arson fires. The things that we've witnessed across the lake in Seattle and elsewhere. And we were seeing this violence all over the nation.
Right.
In the smallest of communities to the largest metropolitan area in New York. And almost all of those scenarios, the cops were overwhelmed. And we're learning from that, and I'm not going to get into what we as a profession are doing or anything like that.
Sure.
But the business community suffered that day. And I made a commitment that we're not letting it go. And we're going to do everything in our power to bring people to justice. And over the last several months, our detectives have been working very hard with the evidence that came from people living in the downtown area, the businesses that had phenomenal, video footage of the suspects, clear pictures like I'm looking at you. And we have been able to identify many people. We referred charges over to the prosecuting attorney's office. where other communities haven't been able to do that. And we're not done. We're going to keep on doing it. Our hope is that that never happens again. And, you know, there have been some lessons learned. But, you know, the relationship between the business community and the Bellevue Police Department, at least for me anyway, in those few days afterwards, I was afraid that it was really going to take a major hit. And once I explained the situation to everybody, the love we got back, and I'm not saying across the board, people were victimized. They came in and tore up businesses.
Right.
But over a period of time, we earned that trust, and we took a deposit out of the trust bank account with them. And we had enough of a balance there to where it could withstand that. October 24th was a different story. When that particular group came into the city to tear up our city. And, you know, it was a different response. A lot of different variables in the two different situations.
Did you apply lessons learned from May to October? Were the conditions similar, but the approach different?
So we had more intel earlier. There was not this regional upheaval to where when we called for mutual aid, you know, we got it on October 21st and then some. On May 31st, we had expected that we were going to get a lot of officers from Seattle because they committed to it. As they are great partners. But right before our riots erupted here, another group went into Seattle and they erupted over there as well. So Seattle couldn't come over here. And for a long period of time, we were on our own. State Patrol did a phenomenal job. They sent a lot of resources, as did many of our partner agencies, and there's too many of them to list. But on October 24th, it was a different story because people were not as tied up as they were on May 31st. So we had a lot of resources. Our goal is to provide a safe environment for people to engage, again, in their constitutionally protected rights. We had one arrest for driving while license suspended, no broken windows, no violence, and it was a different experience for everybody concerned. And we got a lot of positive feedback from the business community. We've worked very closely with Patrick Bannon. He's been a great partner. Joe Fain from the Chamber. We value the relationship. Oh my goodness, we value the relationship with the business community. And we're very mindful of our responsibility to keep your businesses safe. And we're going to continue to do so.
I'd like to thank our viewers for tuning in and watching this discussion. And I'd like to thank our sponsors one last time for supporting this type of content. We can't produce these interviews without you. Those sponsors are Heritage Bank, Kaiser Permanente, Puget Sound Energy, Vulcan Real Estate. My name is Matt Jack. I'm with the Bellevue Downtown Association, and you just watched a Downtown Talks.